Hey guys, Alex here, ajnashville.com, here with Mr. Greg Pease. What's up, buddy?
Greg Pease, I'm here. I'm doing good. How you doing today, Alex?
I'm fantastic. Hey, it's good to have you on the show again. Bringing the energy today, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I'm excited about today.
I heard that. So you actually sparked something the other day. You and I were talking on the phone, and there was that you brought up a word, and it was a word that the media has been pressing. And I was like, we got to do a podcast on that. It was perfect.
Are you talking about when we talked about recession?
Recession, yes.
Perfect.
Because it's one of those words that, you know, the media tosses us around. And what's the thing that most people think about? And this is kind of what we talked about when it comes to recession. Mostly it's, you think recession, you think housing crash, depreciation, people losing their houses. You think of all this crazy stuff. And I think a lot of times people confuse the recession with the housing crash.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just so that's the most recent exposure that we've had. So it's just that's so fresh on everyone's mind. So then the immediate relation, like you said.
Right. Well, and it was traumatic for most people. They saw their parents losing their home. You know, maybe they lost their first home. People in our age range, we were old enough to where it was like, all right, we're not losing our first home, but we know people who are. You know, I remember picking up the phone one day. I stayed in the mortgage industry during this time, and I called up one of my old reps. I'm like, hey, man, you want to refinance your house, blah, blah. I was like, I lost my house. I'm like, oh, like, what do you say to that? You're like, yeah. They build more, you know?
No, but so, and this go around, and actually, I'd love to hear your insight on it from the lending side, but my understanding from what I hear, as a majority, it sounds like we have a ton more equity in the housing market this time. That I've even heard or read an article, and what can you share around? I've heard it even said that the housing market could even be what helps us through this recession.
Yeah, I've actually heard the same thing, is the housing market can help stabilize this recession we're going through. The one thing that we have now that we didn't have before is people are qualified. They're not, I had a guy that was a Domino's Pizza delivery driver down in Naples, Florida. He had a house that was $750,000 or something like that. He got a stated income, stated asset loan. One of those loans that you don't want people to be in, especially now. The guy said he made X amount of dollars. Well, when it came time for his payment to go up, he made like $2,800 a month. And at $2,800 a month, you can't afford the hurricane insurance and the taxes and regular homeowners insurance on a home. And so the guy was scrambling. He's like, what do I do? Well, in addition to that, you had the housing crash. So now his $750,000 house is worth $300-something thousand, and he can't refinance. There's nothing he can do. So coming around back to this point, people have more equity than they've ever had before. People are more qualified than they have been in the past. People are in situations where they're not losing their homes because they got it at low interest rates and everything else. And historically, a recession, you actually see an increase in value. That's historical values. If you look at it across the board, every recession besides the Great Recession, which is this past one,
correct,
you see an increase in values, which means that the interest rates have come down. So you see affordability. So now that $300,000 house, well, the people can afford $200 more a month in payment because the interest rate's not 6%, it's 2.875. And so they're able to buy that house.
Right.
And it's not as big of a burden on them as it was when it was 6%. So that's where you see the driving in prices and everything.
So what do you think about in general? You see a lot of, and I know the media, of course, they need content, right? But people that it seems like there's a lot of fear going around. But I guess in my opinion, this is first of all, we should have seen this coming at some level,
right?
Just based on when we look at history, and if you look at some form of recession happening, roughly speaking, every 10 years or every decade, we're definitely past due on that, and then even past that, now we still have ripples still to come, but based upon where we're at just in the economy, I mean, I really don't see it something to be afraid of. It's just something to maneuver with. And
right.
What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's definitely something to be mindful of. The one thing is that we know is hopefully people learned their lesson the last time around. Back in 2008, 2009, when all this took place, you had loan officers that had $20 in their bank account, but a brand new red Ferrari sitting out front, and that's gone, And so in all professions, you hope that people said, hey, you know what? I need to have a rainy day fund. I need to have a little bit of cash set aside. That's why the stimulus, I seen it coined, and it was called Trump bucks, which I thought was funny. that's why that was so intense when it came out, because people didn't have that nest egg before. And it's like, okay, how do we cater to the people that don't have the nest egg? The COVID-19 mortgage forbearance. And I don't even want to dive into that. That's a wormhole in itself.
I've heard some of your stuff on it.
Oh
I've
my
watched some of your
God.
content. It's crazy
Yes.
what was put out and what was meant to be believed. And
Exactly.
Yeah, keep going. I'm sorry.
And that whole right there, there's an intentional portion for that. There's an intentional, hey, this person's a server. They typically make their mortgage payment. They can't right now because there's nobody eating out. So we need to give them this and that.
That makes sense.
Like, that's intentional. That
Yeah.
wasn't meant for the executive that's still going to work every day and decided to take forbearance. If you're that person and you can afford to make your mortgage payment and you're listening to this, you are helping fuck up the economy just as bad as if you were unemployed and didn't make the payment.
Somebody listening probably need to hear it.
Absolutely. I've talked to people that they can absolutely 110% afford to make their payment, and they just don't. They're like, oh, I'll just sock some money aside and I'll do this with it. Well, the thing is no, it's not hurting your credit, but from a lending standpoint, if you're in forbearance, guess who's not getting a loan? You.
Yeah.
And that's across the board, So no, you're not having a ding on the credit, but we're going to look at that and we're going to analyze that when it comes to your ability to repay if you ever refinance. And guess what? Rates keep going down. If you're in forbearance right now and you can afford to make the payment, guess who's not getting a lower rate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and even as a leader, when you use the term executive, and I know it's not just literal there, but as a leader, if you have the money and you choose to wear on the economy, like you said, you're absolutely helping progress the issue.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a hole that as Americans, we're all in together.
Absolutely.
We talk about the debt levels and everything else and how America needs to get out of debt. Well, guess what? If you're not making your $2,000 a month mortgage payment, and you could you're adding to that number.
Yeah.
So don't come saying America needs to get out of debt if you're part of the problem.
If you're adding to the pile.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people think that, well, it's big banks and big banks can afford to do this. No, they can't. Just because they have a bigger vault that they keep their money in doesn't mean there's more money in it.
So what about? Let me ask you. Have you what? I use you all the time. So I'm a realtor, by the way. Anybody that's seen, I've been on your podcast before knows it, and for those that don't, I use you. I love working with you. My clients love working with you. Other than, but mainly around the VA home loan. I got to ask you, what can you talk to about that, and with everything going on, have you seen changes? What to expect?
Not as much with VA, because VA has a history of the veteran paying for their mortgage. Statistically, the VA loan is the best performing loan out of any other loan product. You take people with an 800 credit score making, their debt to income ratio is 3%, and their track history of making and repaying their mortgage is worse than any other veteran loan out there. So the VA loan is actually a preferred loan anyways, but you have seen some products kind of shrink back, like the VA renovation loan is currently suspended nationwide.
Okay.
The reasoning behind that, I'm not quite sure, but it is something that's under suspension. The minimum credit score for a lot of places have raised, and so you're seeing veterans that maybe had a 590 credit score before that could get a loan. In a lot of places, they can't. Now, if they have good reasoning, they still can here at Benchmark, which that's great, because we stand committed to helping our veterans and helping the people that served our community obtain the dream of home ownership.
Absolutely.
But if you're in a situation where you just said, fuck it, I'm not going to pay any of my bills, and you have a 580 because of that, that's a different story. It's case by case.
So if they ain't paid their bills in the past, you're not going to loan them more? Is that what
No, that's a slippery slope,
No, but it sounds like you're saying for the veterans that excluding the renovation loan,
right?
Veterans out there, if they're considering buying right now, anyone that's eligible, active duty or veterans being eligible for VA,
right?
Still a great time for them to execute
absolutely.
on that. Nothing changed there.
Yep, and what you're going to see is you're going to see a clog up. So right now there's a stop order on movement for veterans that are PCSing to different stations. And for those of you that don't know what PCSing is, it's a permanent change of station. What that means is the active duty person is coming from one station and moving to another one, and that is going to be his or her new home. And so what you see with the stop movement order is you're not seeing the waves of people come. Well, what's going to happen is eventually the DOD is going to release that stop movement, and you're going to see people just flowing in, and you're going to see lenders that are overloaded with veterans and active duty military that are coming, to their new duty station.
Absolutely. What do you? as I mean, speaking to the industry as a whole, what can we do to help uh, oil that for when that comes down the pipeline?
I would just say be efficient, be available, be efficient. You know, the biggest thing is, and you know this better than I would.
Like we have to answer our phone.
Oh shit! Why would you ever do that? Answer the phone. I don't even know why you carry a phone. Not you in particular. I'm saying
Yeah.
some people. Some people, it's like
Yeah.
their phone is nothing more than a video game player. You know. But yeah, answering the phone, that's massive. That's huge. But we all know that. The move in itself, just a move, an individual to move from one place to another is a very stressful
Very stressful.
situation. Now take that and put a timeline on it and orders and everything else that you have to be in a certain place by a certain time, no matter what. It is what it is. That stress, we as individuals and professionals, we need to cater to that and make sure that we're making this move as smooth as possible.
That's I'm glad you brought that up. Especially, I mean, I have a soft spot for veterans active duty, but in general, it's easy to negate the stress that just the move, just that little piece of the transaction. I say
Right.
little, it's not little, and it is extremely stressful. Add in kids, add in spouse, add in, and then when you go to the VA, add in all those barriers.
Yeah.
And I mean, that just when you said it, really, I thought to myself, I need to make sure I'm paying attention to that stress level for my
Absolutely.
clients as well.
Well, and typically you have one person that's positioned and posed to set all that up. You know, whether it be the wife or the husband, one of the two people
Right.
is set up to, okay, this is my job, this is what I'm doing.
Right.
So a lot of times you're talking to a single individual when there's more than one person that's involved in this move. And so you have to communicate that with more than one person. You have to be ready to answer your phone when the husband or wife comes home from work and says, hey, what did the mortgage guy or girl say? You know, my thing is this. If you're in a position where maybe VA isn't your thing, step aside for a second and let the people that are professionals handle this. And I don't say that with arrogance. What I'm saying it with is don't put somebody in a situation where they may not get a home because of ignorance.
Yeah, that's a good point.
This just happened 2 days ago. I had a person call me up, and there's a company. I won't mention their name. They're believed to be the military bank, you know, and it's a place that's been around for a long time. They sell insurance, and they used to do very good at insurance, but I won't mention their name. And the day of closing, they told this soon-to-be veteran and wife that now you can't buy your home. And you can't buy your home because the loan officer made a mistake, and they counted your GI Bill as effective income, which you can't do.
Yeah.
You know, that's like VA 101. And this person works at a place where they supposedly specialize in this.
And huge
Right.
negative effect on that veteran and family too.
You just screw this person over. And like I told Luis the other day, imagine if that was the only thing seaming that relationship together. If the stress had been so much and so great from them being overseas and everything else that literally them getting here and getting home and getting into a home
That was the
helped
relief,
keep the
yeah.
relationship together. And now you just tore it apart, you know? When we're dealing with our veterans, it's not a game. And when we're dealing with active duty, you know, this is, if any loan out there, doctor loan, you know, lawyer loan, veteran loan, take this one the most seriously because the impact this has across the board is far greater than most of us can even, you know, we can't conceive the depth that these people are going through typically.
Absolutely. What about? Let me ask you about. I'm switching gears a little bit.
No,
Hop
you're
all
good.
over the place. So what about? I read something the other day that said we're back to record low interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about interest rates just in general? It doesn't have to be VA loan. What are
Yeah.
they looking like? What do you see in the future?
I mean, they're definitely low. There's no question about it. You know, good credit, good pay history, everything else. You're definitely going to see rates. We're actually seeing them in the mid twos. It's crazy.
What?
Yes. So now saying that, there's some
You gotta pay your
obstacles. That's suggested. You know, but it varies person to person, loan type to loan type. Like I had a lady the other day call me up and say, "Hey, what's your rate for a 20-year?" I'm like, there's a lot of other stuff
There's a
that
few
goes
other
into
variables
it.
in there.
Right. But you're seeing them in the twos. And the crazy thing is the Fed is now buying the 2% coupon. And for people that are listening that have no idea what that means.
So and then I'm in front of you and I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, that's perfect because what that means is there's a potential change to where those interest rates drop even more depending on how much money is dumped in that sector to reduce the coupon to that 2%. So in other words, the money is going to be lent at a lower dollar amount. Now, those of you that are listening, the difference between a 2.875 and a 3% isn't substantial. So don't just stand by and hope that the rates go down to this magic number that you're waiting for because a savings today is a savings regardless. And granted, a greater savings would be nice, But what happens if that reverses? Take the stock market yesterday, for example. Everybody was high and mighty and everything's great. Stock market opens up and that thing is dive bombing. I mean, dude, the most points since I think March were lost
it was
yesterday.
a rough day for you.
Dude, it was rough. It was like,
is that what you're wearing that red shirt for today?
No, this is Remember Everyone Deployed.
There you
It's
go.
Red Friday.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, kind of, sort of. It's the bloodbath left over, But and it's going on again today. So what I'm getting at is there's no guarantee that rate's going to be low tomorrow.
Gotcha.
Heaven forbid somebody decides to do some jackassery to our country again, and it causes the economy to shift.
We're allowed to curse.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh man,
it's funny you bring that up. The other day I was standing there, I was thinking, and actually this was the day before yesterday, and I was thinking, you know what? I'm so grateful that my audience, my people, my sphere of influence that I speak to, I can speak to for the most part openly.
Genuinely.
Yeah, I don't have to
awesome.
sugarcoat and be like, oh, I can't say shit around that person.
I don't know how many I held back so far, but
no, it's one of those things though. Like, there's a lot of situations where people feel like, hey, I can't be open. Now, don't get me wrong. If I'm standing in front of someone's grandma, I'm not going to say, hey, fuck this. I'm going to have respect because I'm a respectable person.
absolutely.
But if I'm sitting around BSing with friends or something like that, if it comes out, it comes out. It is what it is.
being genuine, really
Right,
being genuine.
right.
That's
And
awesome.
what sparked that is somebody had posted in one of my private groups, and they're like, I really feel like I can't cuss or be myself in front of people because they challenge me on it. I'm like, bro, that's you being a pussy. Like,
Well, and that's fair. I mean, that sums it up.
Right.
No, and so with that piece, what I share, and we all have our own, we all at some level, have whether it be a fear of rejection or a hesitation of rejection, and so on. And one thing that I continue to tell myself that helps me and for anybody, so there's like 7 billion people on this planet,
Right.
and if they all aligned with you, Alex, that'd be super weird.
Yeah.
So just find your people. Like
That'd be normal.
That'd be normal. Find your people. As long as you have true north. Like there's like I am weird, okay, but there's people that love my weird. And
Right.
As long as you stay on your true north,
Yeah.
you're gonna have your people.
Well, and that's what makes sense. The more, I guess, the older I get, the less concerned I'm with impressing people.
Right,
Because I think
right.
at our younger years, we're like, "Ooh, we're gonna dress
Very
nice.
much so.
We're gonna walk like this, talk like this. We're gonna do this because we want to impress the people around us."
Absolutely.
Now I'm to the point like I don't give a shit. My daughter the other day, I took her to a prom, a children's prom that they had at her daycare. Really cool. And she was the only one. She had a Star Wars dress on and checkered Vans. And like that was her. That's
Yep,
my
yep,
daughter.
yep.
And everyone else has got like princess dresses and suits and ties and stuff. And I don't give a shit. Because here's the thing. Everybody else in that room, they're normal to themselves and that's how they want to be, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with
Absolutely.
that. But my daughter is normal to herself. And that's how she wants to be, and no one's going to infringe upon that. And I'm the only one there in shorts and a T-shirt, tennis shoes on, tattooed. I park right in front of the daycare because I roll in there like I own it, bro. I park in one of the lines, the weight lines.
That's great.
And I'm like, I don't want no one parking next to my car.
Yeah.
But it's good to be an individual,
Yeah.
And somebody will like you for being the individual you are. And if not, you're probably just a fucking serial killer or something. Nobody likes you anyways. I'm just
Hold on.
totally
I
teasing.
feel like they're really charismatic, aren't they? Or,
Yeah, that is true. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a very good point.
That's how you got 7 billion people to like you.
Right, exactly. You know what they say? What's his name? Jeffrey Dahmer had 5 guys before 5 guys was popular. Sorry,
That's a good one.
that was a little left field, but no, dude, it's great topics today.
So what do you think about? And I'm sorry, I don't know we're getting on time, but I want to. So when we talk about recession, one last piece, I definitely want to touch on that. How do you feel? What are your thoughts around? So my belief is that Middle Tennessee specifically and Tennessee as a whole, I don't think not only do I not think, and for anyone listen, this is opinion, so don't take it too
Right.
seriously.
Right.
I don't think we're going to be affected as negatively or impacted as hard as some of the other states, and I believe that we will actually bounce back even stronger, just based upon, you have like the airlines that are coming in from Florida to Williamson County. You got Amazon building more buildings
Right.
in Nashville. These are going to require jobs. These are going to increase the jobs.
Yep.
I feel like we're in a we're in a strong place to have a powerful bounce back in Tennessee and Middle Tennessee specifically.
So Tennessee as a whole has always been strong. Let me get that straight. Right off the bat, you got to think of the floods of 2010. Like people bounce back and they're like, "Hey, we're going to help each other. We're going to charge forward. We're going to do this."
I mean, Opry Mills.
Yeah.
That place is amazing. And after the flood,
and the people of Tennessee do not let anything get them down. Recessions. Okay, we'll find a way around it. Okay,
100%.
you want to take from small business. That's okay. We'll stop shopping at Walmart. We'll start shopping at mom and pa's local grocery store. Like we get it.
I've seen it happen right away. I mean,
yeah.
And I see. Actually, you created a page around it, didn't you? I mean,
yeah.
That was, yeah.
The support Spring Hill small business, and the idea behind that is, hey, you know what? Instead of going to one of these big chain restaurants, why don't we go to Grecian Pizza down the road? Frank, the guy over there, donates to people that are less fortunate. He always gives back to the community. Like that's the guy that needs our money, not the guy with the suit and tie sitting up in some CEO position. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people will say, well, yeah, but that guy also employs our people. But guess what? When Logan's, which just announced that they're shutting down across the nation, when they're ready to pull out because they're not profitable, they're pulling out. When Frank has to decide whether or not he's going to employ someone's son or daughter, he has an emotional decision to make because that is a human being that he is in touch with.
Absolutely.
And so when we reach out and decide to support our small business, that's what we're doing. We're sending Frank's daughter to dance classes to support the local dance company, and we're fueling our community, and that's what Tennessee does best. I mean, look, we've had tornadoes. Back-to-back tornadoes. Like, they come ripping through, and what do you see the next day? You see volunteers out there cutting trees down. Yeah. You see guys that yesterday were suit and tie standing in front of a judge as an attorney, not a defendant. Maybe they were, too. Maybe it was community service. But you see them out there with chainsaws standing next to each other because we don't see all that difference. It doesn't make a difference to us if you're the ranch hand. I got a client right now. He's a ranch hand, so that's why this came up. We don't care if you're the ranch hand or the local banker or the CEO of a big company. You live in Tennessee.
We get together. We're Tennesseans. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that's huge.
And
I've seen that. I mean, I'm sorry.
No, you're
ahead,
good.
Keep going.
No, I was just going to say, the financial crisis that we experienced back in 2008, it didn't really phase Middle Tennessee because people bind together and people make sure that their neighbors are cared for. They make sure their neighbors are taken care of, and we're just going to do it all over again.
I was in California in 2008. They got hit just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just a little
Has
bit.
nothing to do with the people they elect to put in office either. Nothing at all.
But I've been in Tennessee for, I think, like 8 or 9 years, and I've definitely experienced – I love everything about Tennessee, and I definitely everything you said I've experienced, and even like you said, and again I'm using the page that you created as an example.
Right.
But when you said, hey, we bond together, we shift immediately. Like I watched it happen. You did it by action, not just by words.
Yeah, and that's what Tennesseans do. They act. There's no rooms for fancy elevator talk or anything like that. It's like, hey, let's do it.
What are we doing?
You see someone in the ditch, grab the strap out of the back of the truck. Let's get them out.
Yep. There's nothing to talk about. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So. And that goes for anyone listening. Let's start doing more things by action, less things by words. It doesn't take the words to tell someone that you're going to do something. You don't have to say, "Hey, I donated this today. Everybody pat me on the back." Just do it.
Just do it.
There's his name's Art. I can't remember his last name, but he did a clip on YouTube, and it was just do it. This is back Nike days and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most impactful. Like it's in the 80s. You could tell this thing was recorded with a shoulder cannon. Those old camcorders. And he says, just do it and keep doing it until you can't do it no more. And that's what we have to do as individuals. Guess what? If you're down right now and you can't find a way up, get up anyways. Get up and charge and figure something out. Because if yesterday you were a banker and today you're scooping shit out of somebody's yard, you're still supporting your family.
100%. 100%.
And the objective is to be the best shit scooper out there.
Literally.
Hands down. So. I hope this message finds everybody well. Greg, dude, it's always great to have you on the show because you bring the energy, you bring the questions. It's very hard for people to challenge me and like bring a question. I'm like, but you cause people to think. If you don't already, make sure you follow Greg Pease. Greg's got an incredible story to tell, and you're going to start telling that story a little more publicly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Here in the future, we'll be getting going on a regimented, putting out content around, obviously a little bit about my past and then how I've used my past to propel my future. And there's plenty. The fact of the matter is everything that I have done has already been written, and I got it from someone else. So I believe that someone else can benefit from what I'm going to give out.
Right, and it's Greg Pease, HS. Sorry.
HS. So
ship
here's
spelled backwards.
Ship spelled backwards. You won't mess it up then.
You don't give a ship. So, all right. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. We'll talk to you soon.